Hey everyone, it's the Angry Honey Badger, and it's time again for us to take a look at another champion build video. Today I'm playing as Udyr in the jungle. Lately I've been playing him a lot more than I used to. I've found him to be very fun jungling, and kind of playing him as an off tank that still does a surprising amount of damage because of his kit, which is very unique in the game if you do not know about it. Basically, at level 1, you can take any of your abilities. He technically doesn't have an official ultimate, you could say. So what you have is you have your 4 abilities. You just think of them as your Q, your W, your E, and your R. And you can pick any of them off the bat. So at level 1, I go with his Phoenix stance, which is his R ability, which would be his ultimate if you're used to that being the item slot. But let's just go up here real quick. The enemy team decided to go with a kind of a 2-top bruiser combination where you try to pick on the top laner really hard. If this is happening to your team, it's something you need to address by ganking it early. And if they would have turned around and started fighting this sooner, they would have picked up an easy kill. But they decided to run, and that gave us the advantage because we were able to attack them. So we're going to get off to a head start there and keep picking on them for doing that. Seen a lot of weird compositions lately and some different strategery in the game, because a lot of people got tired with the old meta being the whole 80 carry bottom, blah, 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 and all that. So I've been seeing a lot of mobile teams. I've seen the dual top thing come back and them kind of doing like a later on jungler. It's kind of an interesting thing because if you can make your teams, or the enemy team's top laner kind of not get any farm, if you can force them off the experience, you can actually outlane them quite hard if you do send 2 top. So I think that's what they were trying to do this game, and it's not going to work for them because we're going to be ganking it, because that's what you need to do in that situation. They have decent poke, but once again, when this is happening to your team, you need to make sure you come out and you gank it. So I'm going to be up here again already. Going to gank it again to see if we can do anything to them. I got silenced real quick by Cho'Gath, but I was able to stun him with another part of my kit that I will get to. I'm going to explain his kit a little bit more in depth for the people who do not know exactly how Udyr works. Now here you would think they're kind of getting away. Vlad does kind of come back to stick his head out, and I'm going to hang out up here for a second, make them think that maybe I'm going back in this bush, and maybe teleporting back. So I'm going to wait a second, and Renekton also headed down too, so they're maybe not too sure until they ward. I'm going to go out here to Cho'Gath, get my stun off on him real quick. We're going to be able to pick up a quick kill on him, and I'm going to kind of retreat for the most part. I think we might be able to pick up a kill on Vlad in a little bit too, maybe, maybe not, but we'll find out. Anyways though, like I was saying, I'm going to go back over all my items and that too, so don't worry. I think, yep, we're going to come back up for another gank. Another classic thing, I believe he did just ward this though, so I don't know why he's not paying attention. One thing you can do if you know that they aren't warded up top and you go to gank and then they go to jump out, like to flash out of something that you're about to gank, just go back down in the river and come back a second later. They don't have flash up now, and a lot of them think most junglers are just going back to the jungle, when in fact they're just going to go back and landing like normal, and this time they will not have flash. So that's something to always remember while you are jungling, that hey, maybe it's worth a second to just stand there for a second. If nothing's going to happen, then yes, continue on with your jungling, but you know, it's always worth it to try to get ganks. Alright, so a lot has been happening, but we'll go back over this. At level 1, I start with Wits and Pots in the jungle. Udyr is a very strong jungler, and he sustains himself very well with his abilities, and like I said, we'll go over abilities in a little bit. But basically you can do that, and it's going to definitely help you out while ganking as well, because you have that bonus move speed. You won't be slower by having a cloth or a Vamp Scepter early on. So the Wits and Pots is going to be very helpful for Udyr in the jungle. Since they don't have a jungler, I'm going to be able to steal their jungle quite easily, which is going to help me get buffs whenever I want them. I'm going to come down bottom now and do a little bit of a gank, but I don't think we're going to have any success, or I was coming down here to see if there would be a gank. But basically, as my first time I go back to base after I try to do a gank top, if that's the situation, or the gank bottom, if that's what's going on. First time back, I usually try to buy a Heart of Gold. Now, I know in the future this item's not going to exist, so basically I'll say skip this, but keep building this item, because this item's going to continue to still work out well because of the stats. But in the future, when all the future Season 3 stuff officially goes through, Heart of Gold's not going to be what you need to buy it right away. But skip this and continue on with the build pretty much like normal. But for now, get a Heart of Gold. It's a great item. It's going to give you the health and the gold per 5. Maybe pick up a different gold per 5. Here I'm going to come back top to gank. Come out here, deal some damage. Luckily, Nidalee is up here as well. She came from mid to help me. It is Tiny Tyrant, who I do play with. And he's going to come up here and pick up a quick double kill. I'm going to pick up an assist on the Cho, and Renekton's going to pick up a couple assists and get 2 lives. So that's going to be good going on there. Also, then the next time that I typically go back, I try to finish off my boots into Merc Threads, which are going to be great for me with the tenacity and the magic resist. That's going to definitely help me get a little bit tanky. The setup for Udyr is, like I said, I go with him kind of being a little bit tankier. He still has damage, but you don't really get full damage items. You go kind of that half tank off the wall tank, but it works very well, and he does do a surprising amount of damage as you are able to pick up kills. Here I'm going to come bottom lane and see if we can do a little bit of a gank. Gonna come out here, use my Ghost. I do take Ghost with him, so I can use that and my E ability, which is my Bear Stance, which does stun them. And I'm gonna try to do that to come out here. Now, unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to pick up the kill, and they're gonna kill Graves, which is going to happen. We were kind of in an awkward position, but my Zyra is here now, who's playing support, but support with damage, and she's gonna pop up in here and do a lot of damage, and I'm gonna be able to pick up the kill with my Phoenix Stances, kind of my persistent active on it when that is up. Try to chase a little Cho'Gath here, see if we can pick up a kill, which we are able to. Alright, so now that we are going over items and all that fun stuff, we have the cloth armor that I have going, and that's going to be going towards my next item that I am building. So, boots, we get a little bit of health with that Heart of Gold, and then this Chainless armor that is going to be building towards one of my earlier items, and is going to be very helpful, in my opinion, with Udyr when you're kind of playing him as this off-tank. But we'll go over his ability now, and what order I like to take them in. So, like I was saying, at level 1, I do take his Phoenix Stance, which is his R ability, which you would consider his ultimate, although, like I said, that's not really how he works. So, with your Phoenix Stance, when you activate it, you're going to deal AoE damage around you for 5 seconds. And it's going to also increase your damage, which is very nice, especially in the middle of team fights. That AoE damage is going to help you just deal all that damage you need to the enemy team. And then if you, obviously, if you just leave it in that stance while you're running around, every third attack emits that surrounding damage. So if you just keep it up, you're going to keep dealing that damage around you. So it's very nice for AoE damage, and I would consider this one of his stronger abilities, but they're all strong in very unique ways. So we'll go over more, like I said. Then at level 2, I do typically take, or almost always take, it's kind of a need to, is his W, which is his Turtle Stance. And what that does is when you activate it, it gives you that shield as you just saw while I'm doing Dragon, which is going to help me obviously protect my life. And then its persistent constant, when you have it just up, is you can't crit, but it restores health and mana every time you attack, and this is based off of the amounts you have or percentages. So as you level it up, you get more and more mana back, and this helps him sustain himself very well in the jungle by getting that health back and getting all that mana back. So he becomes very efficient and self-reliant later on. So bit of a team fight here going on. I think I picked up an assist there, and now I run like crazy. And am I going to die? Yeah, I'm going to die. I get shut down, unfortunately, but I'm 4-1-4 so far. All right. Now going over his other abilities. Now typically at level 3, which I usually am ganking a lane by then, or trying to, I take his E ability, which is his Bear Stance. Now when you activate Bear Stance, you get a bonus movement speed, and then your persistent is, whenever you hit an enemy champion, you stun them for 1 second, but it can't be reactivated on the same champion unless 6 seconds has gone by. So it's great for speeding yourself up and then running in and basically smashing somebody in the face to stun them. So that's what you're always seeing me as I run in. And you can see my stances when they change. You can tell which one I'm in. Like right now, we're in Phoenix stance. I switched over to Bear to stun him, then back into Phoenix, then into Turtle. So you kind of jump in between them. And your passive, luckily with this, is your, I think it's called Monkey Agility, is every time you enter a new stance, you gain 10% attack speed for 5 seconds, and this stacks up to 3 times. So as you switch through your stuff over and over and over, you keep your attack speed up because it's stacking, and that's very helpful with your abilities, and just kind of depending on what you want to sit in. And then finally, this last thing that I do take, and I take it later on in the game, is his Tiger Stance. And his Tiger Stance is very good, but if you're going with this more tankier role, it's not as important, in my opinion. What happens is when you activate it, you do 150% damage plus some other damage on top of that based off of whatever level it's at, and you get attack speed. I like this ability later in game, and it's great if you want to take 1 point in it because its persistent effect gives you increased attack speed, which is great for pushing lanes and taking down towers, and basically one-on-one fights it becomes a very good thing. But in team group fights, I think Turtle Stance and Phoenix Stance are your best bets. Turtle to become tanky and kind of self-sustain, and then Phoenix Stance for that AoE damage. So switching between those two is my main thing, and then using Bear Stance like such right now to stun the Lux and then switching over to Phoenix is what picked me up that kill. You don't even have to attack them. As you can see, that burst emitting around me is dealing that AoE damage, and it does a good amount of AoE damage. So, like I said, there's some surprising damage that you do deal with Udyr when you are playing him. So, those are some of the things I'm doing. Now what's going on is not a lot of real fighting's happening now after I did pick up that kill on luck, but this is just kind of a demonstration almost of, there's 4 of them here, and there's me and Nidalee does hurt them, but I can kind of just take whatever little pokes they give me, I can get knocked up, I can run back towards them. He's a very kind of mean, run-in-your-face, brutal tank and damage dealer. Now I'm going to finally start to get away. While I'm doing this and I'm running from the enemy team, I'm activating my bear stance to give me that bonus movement speed, and then I'm popping up that turtle stance, which is going to give me that shield to help protect me in case some incoming damage comes. So that's what I'm doing whenever I run away from fights to do that. Also, if they are right behind me, I'll activate bear stance, turn around, split second, you know, hit them with it so it stuns them for that second, and then take off again. So just kind of depends on what you're doing when you're playing him, but you know, all this stuff kind of comes down to personal preference with Udyr. So at first, my number one thing I do max out is my Phoenix stance, followed by my turtle stance. I usually switch in between those, leveling them up because they're both great in their own ways. And then I do level out my bear stance with 5 points, and then my tiger stance, I do only put the 3 points in it like it is my ultimate. So you can put 5 points in any of them, but only one of them is going to be able to get only the 3 points because you put 5 in the other one. So you kind of have some choice. Unless you do them a little bit differently, you go 5, 5, 4, 4. So, or would it not be 4? Or whatever. Anyways, so you can pick your stances, but as I was saying, in this more tanky version, don't take Tiger Stance, which is your Q. Don't max that out, unless you're going crazy damage Udyr, which I'll get to that later in the build as well if you want to change directions. So, back to the build, because we've talked so long about his abilities, but I know to some people who don't know how he works, it could be confusing, or if you just wanted a better explanation, that's kind of how his abilities work. So, back to the build, like I was saying, still have that heart of gold, which is giving me all of the passive gold, and then that armor I did build into a Sunfire Cape, which is going to give me health, that armor, and that passive damage around me. So more AoE damage on top of my Phoenix AoE damage is always a good thing, so I'm dealing a lot of damage that way. Then the next item I typically do build is a Wits End to help me with magic resist and attack speed. The bonus attack speeds, obviously, as you can tell through all the abilities I read off, are going to help me in lots of different ways with all my other abilities. So getting some attack speed on him is always a good thing, and I'm getting that extra damage from the Wits End as well. And then now I am building another a little bit of armor, which is going to start going towards the next item that I'm going to go building towards with that Heart of Gold, which is going to be that Warden's Mail, which is going to go towards the Randuin's Omen. So, all of this going on. Lots of talking, I know. Lots of confusing stuff. If any of this is confusing, just listen to it again. Hopefully it makes more sense. But that is what's going on in the build, and that's kind of how I'm playing in. Like I said, when I'm in a fight, I typically switch between running in with my bear stance, switching over to turtle, then to Phoenix, or back into Phoenix and then turtle, kind of switching it up. If I'm in a 1v1 situation, I'll use my tiger stance to deal that bigger damage faster, then maybe switching to turtle and Phoenix to get a shield, and then to switch over to get that AoE passive damage, which is always nice. So that's kind of what's going on with that. Now, as for the masteries page that I do go with when I am playing him, I go with what I call my tanky jungle masteries, which is a 0-21-9 setup. I will post a picture of it in my Udyr quick build, which will be up a few days after this build's posted, so you can always search for that and find that if you want to see a picture of what that looks like. I'm going to pick up an assist there real quick. Like I said, you can keep switching to that stun and speeding yourself up with it. As you do level up your bear stance, your movement speed is increased, which is very nice, so you can run even faster and get into fights really quickly. And that's another reason why I do take Ghost, in case you really need to chase hard down on teams, because he's a fun, fast initiator, just kind of that I'm big, tough running in there and doing all the damage you can, and just kind of being a nuisance to the enemy team. Because Udyrs that are tanky that deal damage, it is unfortunate for the enemy team and is not fun for them to deal with. So, got that Warden's Mail, and I picked up a Hex Drinker that's going to be building towards a Maw of Malmortius. I think the game's going to end in a little bit, so I'm not going to get much further in the build, but I'll go over the items that I do typically get later on in the build. So that's what I was talking about with those masteries, is that 0-21-9. It's that tanky jungler, which is how I kind of go with him. Like I said, I'm going to pick up kills because he does deal the damage, but I try to be kind of the tank and kind of start these fights because of my bear stance and because I have a shield I can immediately put up. So going on with the runes that I typically go with, I'll either go with, sometimes if I want more damage, I'll go with attack damage or attack speed marks, but typically I'll go with the magic resist marks, armor seals, magic resist per level glyphs, and then movement speed quintessences, which are going to be a big help to you to run down people. So here we're going to be running after Lux, use my bear stance to stun her, switch over to Phoenix and Turtle and all that fun stuff. We get that going on, and we're good to go for the most part on picking up an easy kill, dealing plenty of damage, and also it's helpful, you know, to have the Renekton with me. So here we're going to be pushing their base and trying to go for a full clear, but we're not going to do that. I think we're going to push too fast anyways, but that's going to happen. So by the time you get done with the build, you have your Merc Threads, your Omen, your Wits End, and your Maw, and your Sunfire Cape. Now at the end, then you have one item slot left that you can get. Typically, there's 4 items I consider to round it out with. Either a triforce if you want the more damage, you can get a frozen mallet, which is going to be great for keeping them slowed even longer and making you even tankier, or a guardian angel if that's kind of the case you need, if you want a little bit more armor and magic resist and to come back, or situational if they have tons of attack damage. A Thornmail is going to be a good bet, too, to go with. So, that's my build for Udyr. That's how I like to play him. He's very, very fun. Takes a little bit to get used to, but you can have a lot of success with him. If you guys have questions, put them in the comments below. I'd like it if you liked this video and subscribed if you have not. But other than that, guys, I'll just see all of you in the next build video.